Welcome to the Newscaster Studio. I am your host, Victoria Lee Scott, coming to you from Long Beach, California. The Newscaster Studio is a national podcasting and news platform. We serve as a prominent hub for both local and national journalists, encompassing professionals and citizen journals alike. Our platform provides a powerful voice for those whose perspectives deserve a nationwide audience. Through strategic promotion on social media platforms and collaboration with other news services, we ensure that our contributors' voices echo throughout the nation. Today, I am very pleased and happy once again to have someone who is extremely knowledgeable in what is happening in our country as far as energy goes. And I am so happy to have with me Mr. Ron Stein, and we are talking about energy literacy. Ron has an incredible background in what has been going on in our country and energy. And we started talking yesterday, and we just didn't get too far. So we started to come back today and share his books, his strength, his hope, his knowledge, and everything that is going on in this country. He is the man that can answer our questions. Welcome, Rod Stein, to
Victoria,
Victoria's Voice, Grit, and Grace.
glad to be aboard.
So you've done so many things, and you are very well known in the energy world. And I mean, your books alone, how many are there?
I wrote three books. The latest one was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize.
That's exactly what. And we will be putting that book cover up for you so people can go and buy the book after listening to you today. So they can just click on the network here and get your book. So I
Very
want to
good.
thank you so much for joining me. We will be talking about energy literacy, which we know is a very big problem. So right now, will ridding the world of fossil fuel usage severely undermine electricity, transportation, and infrastructure that did not exist 200 years ago? Let's start
Mhm.
there.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. The world populated from 1 to 8 billion people in less than 200 years. Not from oil, they came from the products and the transportation fuels that didn't exist 200 years ago. And they're all made from fossil fuels. Life longevity increased from 40 around the 1800s to like 75 plus today. And with the help of hospitals, medications, the different models of transportation, sanitation systems, all of which did not exist 200 years ago.
Well, it's interesting because you and I both live here in California, and as you drive from here, you can go to the desert, and the only thing we're going to start seeing is those wind turbines. So, do you think that renewable, like wind and solar batteries, replace the two California refinery closures that we have witnessed?
Well, the global elites cling to the green policies, but they cannot explain how the more than 340,000 wind turbines in the world, I mean, on all the battery storage currently on the planet, are going to make anything. They're not going to make the 6,000 products that are part of our daily materialistic lives that did not exist before the 1800s, that are meeting the supply demands of today's hospitals, airports, telecommunications, appliances, electronics, sanitation systems, heating and ventilating. And the transportation fuels that come out of you know fossil fuels is not made by the wind turbines. And they're moving the heavyweight and long range needs of more than 50,000 jets that are moving people and products, more than 50,000 merchant ships for global trade flows, and for the billions of vehicles and trucks in the military and the space program. Wind turbines can't do that.
And I don't think they're going to be able to do that. I mean, let's look at solar and green energy. I mean, America was sold a bunch of goods that really were unsustainable and unobtainable, right? With green
Well,
energy. What are your thoughts on that?
the use of the word energy, it's
Yeah.
green, it's basically electricity, wind and solar electricity. And solar electricity. They can make nothing. In fact, without oil, you have no wind turbines and solar panels because Victoria, we got 6 ways to generate electricity. You can do it by wind and solar, coal, natural gas, hydro, and nuclear. And all ways to generate electricity did not exist 200 years ago because they all have the same components. They all have wire, insulation, computers, electronics, glass, and it's all made from fossil fuels. You get rid of fossil fuels, you get rid of electricity. We're back to the 1800s.
Do you think we're going to actually go more toward nuclear now in the future?
Definitely, the thing about data centers, which is really becoming apparent. Data centers, airports, hospitals, they need continuous electricity, continuous, reliable electricity. And yes, uh,
Right.
solar is. Well, take a look at the Navy. The Navy, they got a 70-year track record. All the submarines, all the nuclear aircraft carriers,
Yeah.
they're all powered by nuclear, and they've phenomenal. They've got that 70-year track record, and yeah, if you want to use the least amount of Earth's resources, it's going to be nuclear, and it takes the least amount of land. It has zero emissions. You want zero emissions? Fantastic. You have zero emissions. But yeah, nuclear is the is the coming thing, and foreign countries are probably going to take the lead away from us. We used to be the leader, but Russia and China are probably going to be leading the promenade toward nuclear.
Well, you know what I worry about with nuclear is that it has been, because of what has happened in the past. I'm just wondering, do we have a new generation that would be open to hear this? Because, America itself, really didn't want to jump back on the nuclear bandwagon. So I'm wondering if enough time has gone by and if enough things have evolved enough to show a new generation a new way.
Well, if you do the research, there've been minimal fatalities from nuclear. A lot of the nuclear disasters have been under unusual operating conditions. And again, like say the Navy's been doing it for 70 years, and they're basically, protecting our country. And without them, we have nothing. So, no, it's going to be you have least fatalities from nuclear because during construction of wind turbines and solar panels, yeah, you don't hear about the fatalities during construction, but and then the longevity.
Right.
Nuclear has a much longer longevity than wind and solar. Wind and solar, especially wind, those turbines are monster turbines. They're bigger than jets. Um, they have a life longevity, maybe 20 years. And after 20 years, what do you do?
But we do know that the wind turbines replace the need for refineries. Yeah, right? The wind turbines can't replace the need for refineries. I mean,
No,
that's
no.
just
You
not possible, right?
take a look at the closure of refineries. Beyond chemistry, hydrocarbons underpin physical mobility. Diesel powers heavy logistics, trucks, mining equipment, construction machinery, rail, agriculture systems. Aviation depends almost entirely on jet fuel. Global trade relies on bunker fuel for the 50,000 merchant ships. Military mobility, tanks, aircraft, naval fleets, supply chains. It's inseparable. Hydrocarbons are unmatched because of their density, storability, and reliability.
Well, I wonder, do you think that California import demand for products uh, for transportation fuels from other states, do you think can that be sustainable?
No, no, there's no crude oil pipelines over the Sierra Mountains. California, we're an energy island. We're separated from the crude oil supply and the infrastructure of oil refineries within the other 49 states. We're an energy island. Unless California transportation fuels the demands for the ships, for all the airports, the cars, the trucks, has staggering numbers from in-state refineries. It's all made in state. And the supply chain of fuels and products will face severe imbalance, leading to higher costs and shortages for future generations. In the future, China, India, Africa, the Middle East, they'll be providing fuels to California's 9 international airports. We have 41 military airports and three of the largest shipping ports in the country, if in the world. And yes, California, we're going to become a national security risk for the entire country. You can think about it. The fuels for the ships in three of the largest ports in America are located in
Yeah.
California. At the port of Los Angeles, there's 1,800 vessels arrived in 24. In Long Beach, they handle like almost 10 million container units that are unloaded, indicating a huge volume of shipping activity, plus
Yeah.
the
I
cruise
well,
ships.
I live right across the street here from that. Yeah.
Okay, you see it. Yeah.
Right here,
And
we
then,
have those oil refineries. I'm right here on the beach in Long Beach, and I
okay,
see the
okay,
tanks and the ships that come in and out here. We also have
right.
those refineries right here in the middle of those islands, the refinery islands right here in the middle of Long
Oh,
Beach.
yes, supplying the fuel. The thing about jet fuel, for California's a big state. We got a lot of small airports, of which is like 145 airports, but they include 9 international airports, 41 military airports, and they're consuming 13
Wow.
million gallons of aviation fuel a day. 13 million gallons a day. And several of those airports have direct pipelines to local refineries. And if you close the refineries, they're going to lose the supply of fuel. And we're the second largest consumer
So
of,
does it look like that does it look like they're gonna keep closing these refineries, Ron? I mean,
well,
crude
well,
oil imports decrease with 2 refineries shut down? I mean, is that what we're looking at?
well, the good news is, yeah, the crude oil will decrease. The bad news is the import of finished product will increase. Instead of making the products and fuel in state, we'll be importing it from foreign countries. But I mean, gasoline, we got 30 million vehicles in California, and we're consuming 42 million gallons of gasoline a day, every day, just behind Texas.
Wow.
And diesel fuel, we're consuming 10 million gallons of diesel fuel to support the state's trucking of the products that are coming from
Yeah.
three of the busiest shipping ports in America. The numbers are just staggering. But will they
Okay, here's a
continue to
question
close?
for you.
Okay.
How come the rest of the country, all their gas prices are going down, but ours are not?
We are overregulated. Um, Everything
Right?
is added. The price at the pump is got a lot of stuff in it. There's a lot of environmental programs that are included in there. When you fill up if you have a gasoline car, when you fill up, you're still paying for the high-speed rail system. That's part of the cost. And
Are you
everything gets dumped into the price of the gasoline. And yeah,
Oh,
and with the overregulation on the refinery, if it costs more to make it, they're just going to pass it off to the consumer. And so yeah, we're basically like $2 higher than the rest of the country for gasoline.
yeah. And we haven't really come down at all. I mean, and I'm watching, I'm watching online and people are posting, 2 something they're paying. And I'm like, we're still close to $5
Exactly,
a
right.
gallon here.
Yes, and
Huh.
it, you know, it's it's not going to get any better because well, it might get better if we import it because all the refineries they're businesses and it's return on
Yeah.
investment and they're overregulated
Right.
and I know Phillips they closed their refinery in Wilmington and Valero they're closing theirs up north in Benicia. It's a business
How
decision.
how much do we lose with both of those? Those are the 2 big companies. What is the loss to California with them leaving us?
Each one of them contributed like about 8% of our needs. Um, and so, yeah, taking out two of them, we've lost about, I think, total 17% of our production capabilities. And so the amount of fuel, there'll be 17%
Wow.
less fuel available. And so, supply and demand, with less fuel available, we may be paying more for what gasoline is available, because the gasoline, it's all manufactured in
Yeah.
state at present. And like I say, in the future, it's probably going to be, imported. Like you say, Africa, Asia, and the Middle East,
Oh,
they're planning on adding like 180 refineries in the next 10 years. And they'll be providing all the fuels for California. Now, California, we have a special blend here in California. I don't know if we're going to be able to negotiate or require refineries in Africa to meet our requirements. They'll probably take what they have. So, yeah, we're losing our negotiating abilities by letting foreign countries provide our needs.
we've been able to see that Americans really didn't go. I mean, the electric cars, I think that has died down really fast when people have realized if you don't own a home and can't plug it into your house, and then plus the cost of that to begin with. But I have a
Right.
daughter that has an electric car, and I'm telling you, she is so frustrated in the amount of time that she has to sit waiting for that car to charge. Nevertheless, finding a charging station, her and I did a road trip to Arizona. Okay.
Okay.
The time that it took us to drive from California to Arizona was the same amount of time we had to sit and wait for that car to recharge. And that
There.
was an
Well,
awakening for her.
I
So,
live in the I live in the Irvine area here in Southern California, and most of the neighbors are. It's a pretty Asian-oriented community, but almost everybody has an EV. It's a second car. If they go anywhere, they use the gasoline car. But if they're going
there you
shopping, they
go.
use the EV. Yeah, long distance, they don't use the EVs.
Right. Well, I didn't think America took too well to that whole thing to begin with. And then when we were by the former administration, if you remember, we were almost forced, because they weren't, with the car makers, and what they did in that whole area was just, they were taking away our freedom and our freedom of choice, to be honest with
Right.
you, which
Well,
I
the
don't
way it
think
is,
America really took too well to.
right, the elites have bought EVs. The elites will continue to buy EVs, but Victoria, we're running out of elites. Now we're getting down to the common folk.
Yes.
And most common folk can't afford a second car just for the luxury of having a second
Right.
car. And so, yeah, the trend is down, and Ford, GM, Mercedes, they're writing off billions of dollars, cutting production, because yeah, it's just not going over very well.
Well, let me take you in a different direction. I have a daughter
Okay.
who's a sole survivor of a disease called meningococemia, and she spent 5 months on life support, hyperbaric chamber. There are only 3,000 cases in the world. It's airborne and it kills within 6 hours. My daughter
Wow.
is the sole survivor with no brain damage and no amputations. When she was
Congratulations.
6 years old at the time when she contracted it here on Second Street by a carrier, and I kept her healthy for 14 years. When she became legal enough, her medical records came out of mother's hands and went into my daughter's hands, and she thought she was doing the right thing when her physician told her he wouldn't take care of her unless she was vaccinated. Well, she thought she was doing the right thing and allowed herself to be vaccinated. Within 6 months, her kidneys started shutting down. To this day, today, my daughter hooks up every night to a dialysis machine at home, every night. So, my question to you is, will the medical infrastructure be impacted with refinery closures? Because it, to me, this is a very important subject.
Definitely, yeah. Hospitals, the entire medical industry, the transportation mobility, national security, the health and well-being of millions of Californians and billions on the planet will suffer from the transition to wind turbines and solar panels, as those so-called renewables only generate electricity. They cannot support the supply chain of the thousands of products demanded by the doctors and hospitals, i.e., the more than 6,000 products and transportation fuels that are made from the petrochemicals manufactured from crude oil, coal, and natural gas. When you go into a hospital, which you've probably been to many times, try to identify something that a wind turbine made. Wind turbines make nothing. They only generate electricity. Yeah, we really got to stop using the word energy when we talk about wind turbines and solar panels, because they're only providing electricity.
Well, so with generating electricity and everything that's available, what do you think the availability of transportation fuels will be impacted with these refineries and what's in front of us? Because as we know, I mean, our whole country is run on transportation and trucking and planes, and and that's even now. Look at just Amazon. I mean, the deliveries that they make, and everything. So I don't understand, like, how is this going to are we going to start seeing the impact that this is having on us? That's my point.
We are seeing it. Electricity, the one thing that most common folks don't
Yeah,
understand is electricity.
we're not looking,
Electricity,
but we're seeing it.
electricity came after fossil fuels. Let me repeat that. Electricity came after fossil fuels because we got a lot of ways to generate electricity. We can do it by coal, natural gas, hydro, nuclear, wind, solar, and but all those parts and components, the wire, the insulation of computers, are made from fossil fuels. Today's transportation via billions of vehicles around the world, trucks, the 50,000 airplanes, the 50,000 ships that came about after fossil fuels, all the parts and
Mm,
components to build those vehicles and trucks and airplanes and ships are also made from fossil fuels, as well as the transportation fuels to move them. When I take a trip, you know, stand outside the airplane, take a look at the airplane. It's huge. And you want to get this off the ground or a cruise ship. They're monsters. And you want this thing to move.
yeah.
Besides moving by transportation fuels, it takes a lot of products to make those ships and planes. And it's all from fossil fuels. Wind turbines, solar panels
So
make
now, are you implying
nothing.
that renewables are incapable of replacing fossil fuels like crude oil and coal and natural gas?
Well, they do different things. Like I say, wind and solar only generate electricity. Is a as a point, electricity can charge my iPhone. Electricity
Uh,
cannot make my iPhone. This is 100%
Correct.
made with fossil fuels. All the solutions, all the green solutions are fossil fuel solutions. The EV, 100% made with oil. The tires, the wires, the insulation, even the batteries, all the machinery used to make that battery is driven by fossil fuels. And like I say, everything is fossil fuel related. Wind turbines,
And what
solar
are
panels,
your
they're
views on
made,
buying an EV?
well, again, the views on buying an EV is, that's the reason I wrote the book, Clean Energy Exploitations, because this book here was nominated for Pulitzer Prize because it brings to the fact that all the exotic minerals and metals to build an EV
You see
battery.
how thick that book is? You had to have a lot to say. That's not just a thin little book, Ron. That how
No,
many pages is your book?
I think it was like 300 pages, but all
It
the
looks like
exotic
there's a
minerals and
lot of information in that book.
all the exotic minerals and metals to build an EV battery that's used in a lot of electronics, wind turbines, solar panels, they're coming from poor developing countries. They have no labor laws, no environmental laws. And we're
Right.
basically exploiting people who have yellow, brown, and black skin. to mine for this. And the environmental degradation is atrocious because they have no environmental laws. The cover photo we used for the book
I was
was
just
from
going to ask
Africa.
you, what is the cover of your book?
The cover is from Africa. It's a military guy with an Uzi overlooking a family mining for cobalt by hand. And it's unethical and immoral. When people ask me if I own an EV, I said no. They say, would you buy an EV? I said no. And they say, why? I say, for ethical and moral reasons. And they say, what the hell do you mean by that? And I explained that
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
willing to financially encourage China and Africa to continue exploiting their people that have yellow, brown, and black skin, continue the environmental degradation on their land. So, quote, quote, I can go green. And ironically, our government doesn't really care because they're providing financial incentives to buy an EV, financial incentives to build wind turbines and solar panels. They're basically financially encouraging China and Africa, continue exploiting your people with yellow, brown, and black skin, continue the environmental degradation on your land. We're going green in this country. I think it's unethical and immoral, but that's my opinion, and
I happen to
I'm
agree with
sticking.
you, but I do want to ask you a very important question.
Okay.
What do you think about the recent Trump cancellation of the EPA endangerment finding? What are your
Well, you have to
thoughts on that? Because
you have to understand.
this is our
I think
administration.
okay. I think it's great because of the 8 billion now living on this planet, the EPA endangerment finding only applied to the 340 million live in the USA. It basically applied to less than 4% of the people on this planet. Shockingly, 80% of those 8 billion
Right?
people, or more than 6 billion, they're living on less than $10 a day. For the other 96% of those living in poverty on this planet, the worst form of air pollution is indoor air pollution. It's caused by poor people burning coal, wood, dung, candles, paraffin in badly ventilated shacks, often without chimneys. Indoor air pollution kills and cripples on a terrible scale worldwide. It's far worse than air pollution. More than 3 million people are dying prematurely each year from illnesses caused by indoor air pollution. And these deaths are primarily linked to cooking with polluting fuels, resulting in respiratory
Yeah.
infections, strokes, heart disease, lung cancer. And their life longevity is a lot less than ours in this wealthy country.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow, we find ourselves so let me ask you, what is our solution, Ron?
Our solution is we've got to think about, we're
Do
trying
we
to
have a
support
backup
the,
plan at least?
we're trying to support the 8 billion people on this planet. And even in California, all the regulations in California, you know, there's what, 40 million people in California? We're like 0.5% of what's on this planet. And if we clean up California, like Newsom wants us to do, this can have no impact on the other 8 billion people. And so, you know, and that was, I think, part of the endangerment program because it was so focused on a minute target that it disregarded the other people that were, you, you can't make amends for the other 8 billion people that are basically doing what you don't want them to do. And so it's a challenge. Like I say, we got 8 billion people on this planet, and those 80% that are making $10 a day, they haven't joined the Industrial Revolution. We take everything we take
Wow.
for granted, heating and air conditioning and automobiles and going
Yeah.
shopping. They don't have that. They're barely trying to survive.
All right.
So
So,
it's
any concluding remarks about California's energy infrastructure at this time that you can leave us with? Because I'm going to recommend that people get your book. If you want to know what's happening in energy in this country, energy literacy, you're the man that they should be listening to. So, give us, what do you
okay.
think?
Well, I think, just like the endangerment finding, it was applying to, you know, 5% of the people on the planet. Well, California's similar. All the over regulations we have is only applying to the 40 million people that live here. And if we clean up our act, that's not going to impact the world. And
Right.
so, and we're paying dearly for it. And obviously, the cost of living here is much, much higher. The cost of fuel is high, and it's going to be higher with refineries closing because we'll be, importing from foreign countries and have no control over regulating them.
I think we're going to have a lot of problems in the next. Yeah.
Well, there'll be a lot of
I
challenges,
just see unless we find a solution.
but
What's
we
that?
really have to. My whole focus. I'm passionate about stimulating conversations. Like you say, there's no backup plan.
Right.
I I was interviewed on a New York TV station, and the first question to me was, "Hey, Ron, we understand you're pro oil." I said, "Time out, time out. I'm not pro oil. I'm pro the products we get from oil. The 6,000 products, all the
Right.
transportation fuels. If there's another way to get them, I'm 100% in favor of it. But we've had 200 years to replace fossil fuels and been unable to do it. And so, yeah, we have to, initiate conversations. Like I say, what's the backup plan? If you want to get rid of oil, what's the
That's
backup plan? If you want to, force these
that's
refineries
the
out of
question.
business, what's the backup plan? The backup plan is we're going to import this from Africa and China. That's not a backup plan. That's a national security risk. We have 41
Right.
military airports, and the fuel for them is going to be provided by Africa and China and the Middle East. That's a national security risk. And we're the fourth largest economy in the world here in California, and we're basically, you know, self-destructing it.
I what the future is gonna hold. I mean, my daughter's only 28 years old and she was sold her whole bill of goods, with the electric vehicle and she learned her lesson because, now she sees everybody just pulling into the gas station, filling up their tank and pulling out where she's got to sit there
It's stuck there.
for a period of time and
Well, Victoria, there's no
she's
silver bullet
she's
answer.
she's
I mean,
learning her lessons, but you know,
yeah,
there's got to be something better.
there's no silver bullet answer. EVs, I think, are great for certain
Yeah.
applications,
Well, it's
like
gotta be something
UPS.
better for you.
Like UPS and the post office. They drive all day long, but they don't put any mileage on. And so, all the UPS and, you know, post office,
Right.
Amazon trucks, they could be EVs because they say they just drive in the local community and they charge it overnight. So, but
Sure.
yeah, like I said, there's no silver bullet answer, but we definitely have to have a conversation. But to demand that everybody have an EV, that's ridiculous. That is
Yeah, I
totally
thought I
out of
thought that
line.
was a
And
little, yeah. Well, I'm
yeah,
glad we didn't go in that direction. Well, Ron, I want to thank you so much. You are an engineer energy consultant. You're a speaker, author of books and articles on energy, environmental policy, and human rights. And you're the founder of PTS Advance, a California based company. I want you to
yes,
send me the
this is
link to
Don
your
Moore.
book so I can put it on our show. I think
Okay,
knowledge is
it's
power. And right there in your hand is the knowledge that Americans need.
it's on
Thank you so
Amazon.
much
I'll
for your
send you the
time
link.
today.
Very
Send me
good,
the link.
Elizabeth. You have a
All
great
right.
day.
Until next time, Ron. Thank you. I
Okay,
hope you'll come back
definitely.
again. And if we have any new updates on nuclear power, you're the guy I'm coming
Very
to.
good.